Welcome back to Movies TV Mad and the Movies TV Mad Daily. We are live, and this morning I come to you with nothing. I give you Superman, and you come to me with nothing? Yeah, there's no news, no updates in terms of DC. Of course, we know that Aquaman, The Lost, blah, 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 I think we've got the title of that. Aquaman 2 is now in production, which is very, very exciting. Please excuse my I'm a bit lethargic today because it's 40 Celsius here in Cyprus. I'm under the aircon. It really is killing me. It's killing all of us out here right now. So it's very, very difficult to even talk. But I'm here if you want to talk to me. It won't be a very long stream. I'd say about 35 minutes or so because from midday here in Cyprus, it's lunchtime. I've got stuff to do. But I'm here for you if you're interested in talking to me. But you know what? As there's only one person in the chat, I'm going to continue doing what I did yesterday. Now, it's very interesting because yesterday was 15 years since Superman Returns released. And I noticed on yesterday's live stream, people weren't really interested in talking about the film. But I am. As there's no updates, I'm going to talk about what Robert Meyer Burnett, is it Robert Meyer Burnett? Yeah. On his Robservations live stream. Now, unbeknownst to me, Robert actually worked on Superman Returns and had a cameo on Superman Returns. And he had a phone conversation on his live stream with Bryan Singer, the man himself who started this superhero craze in the 21st century with X-Men 1 and X-Men 2. Good morning, John. I don't know why you retracted it. A bit weird, but hello, John. How are you? Yeah. So Robert Meyer Burnett actually had a phone conversation on his Robservations with Bryan Singer. I was up very late to watch this, and it was very, very interesting to get Bryan's thoughts on the movie, admitting that he kind of misjudged the summer blockbuster environment where people will expect kind of, big action and superhero, supervillain battles, which of course Superman Returns didn't have. But seeing the criticism that modern day superhero films have from critics and fans about the typical CGI superhero, supervillain battle, I thought it was kind of interesting that Bryan didn't go that way. And in fact, Bryan was trying to create a sequel to Superman the movie and Superman 2, but also taking it in a very interesting direction for the sequel with Superman's son, Jason. What would have happened in that sequel? I pretty much know what Bryan was planning, calling it a Wrath of Khan type of movie. This is what you do with your second movie, not what Patty Jenkins did with Wonder Woman 84. So the sequel to Superman Returns, I think, would have been amazing. I genuinely believe the movie deserved a sequel, even though it only made just over 100 million more than its budget, which of course is disappointing. I don't know why that film didn't do so well, to be honest with you. It clearly didn't have rewatchability for a lot of people, but that film has its fans, and I'm one of them. Bryan Singer made that film because of his love affair with Dick Donner's Superman the movie, and he wanted to take that film and make it a whole franchise and continue it, and that was the dream, and it never happened, and that's kind of a shame because I think Bryan set it up brilliantly, by the way. I think John Ottman's score is absolutely sensational. I still listen to it today while having a shower or a shave or something like that. So the music, and John also edited the movie really well. But for me, the big mistake of the movie was not using the stunning Return to Krypton sequence. And Bryan was asked by Robert Meyer Burnett, I forgot his name already, on Robservations, would you ever come back and do a director's cut? And he's always stood firm on this, Bryan. He said, oh no, he goes, I wouldn't know where to start. People can see him returning to Krypton on the internet. And it's not really the same as putting it in the film, Bryan. I would absolutely love 5 or 10 minutes talking to Bryan and trying to convince him to do a Superman Returns director's cut, because I think it is a special movie for many, many reasons, because it is about nostalgia. it's not really about our nostalgia. It's about Brian's nostalgia for that film. And I think, you know, the guy was a big fan of the 1950s Superman series as well. And he did a great documentary. Brian did a lot to build this movie up. And he did Look Up in the Sky, the amazing story of Superman. I've still got that. He did The Science of Superman, which is also an awesome documentary. So Brian did his best to build up the return of Superman. And it's always interesting to me. I mean, you look at a Man of Steel made just nearly 700 million, which is pretty cool. It's good money for an origin. And back then, it kind of was only equal to Raimi's first Spider-Man movie. So, Man of Steel had a great box office, despite the studio wanting more. Studios always want more, and they believe Superman should be making more money. But the mystery, really, for me, is why Superman Returns didn't make that much money. And I think that is an interesting thing to analyze. Well, Brian always talks about the Devil Wears Prada audience. It was out around the same time, but people forget that Pirates of the Caribbean, a Pirates of the Caribbean sequel, was out around the same time as well, which done much more money. It's interesting. It's weird because it was 19 years since Superman came back, and it was a big event, and we were all excited. And I think, honestly, if the film had more action, I think definitely more people would have rewatched it, and it would have done better. I think that's one of the reasons people just didn't go back to watch it. People didn't want to watch a romantic movie about Superman coming back from Krypton, been gone for 5 years, having to deal with Lois and her new man, her husband, Richard White, who was a great character, and his son, Jason. But even though it has the reputation of not much action, when the movie does give you action, it really fucking gives you some of the best Superman live action you've ever seen. What I like about this film, the action's very original. Now, very different to what Snyder did with his action. And he did something very groundbreaking. He used a brand new camera, which he talked to Robert Meyer Brunette about last night. And, so the film looks like it has a classic 1940s look about it. It's very unique in a lot of ways in the way it was shot. And CGI was still a young technology when Brian did that film. And sometimes you could tell that Brian wasn't as proficient with kind of that new technology, especially in the end when he flies, around the globe like he did in the first Dick Donner movie. But there's a lot of great CGI sequences in this film. One, the plane crash, the one with Richard Branson piloting the plane. Well, what do you expect if Richard Branson's piloting a fucking plane, right? It's going to crash. Only joking, Dick. But, and the point being that that's a great sequence, the way Superman's chasing the plane. And, I kind of conversed with the writers who wrote that movie, and they spoke to me about it a long time ago, and they said to me, well, Mick, the point is we wanted it to look like it was a struggle to Superman. He's been off-world. His powers have just come back to him. And so we wanted to get the aerodynamics. They used an old plane. That's amazing. They actually had footage of a plane crashing. They actually shot that. And so that was amazing. But that sequence was fantastic. And when he goes onto the plane and Lois is like, she's so shocked to see him. So really, this is a love story. Now, in 1978, this worked. Unfortunately, in 2006, people wanted to see a little bit more. The film had good humor. It had great visual effects. His design for the Fortress of Solitude is fucking stunning. And the way he brought back the footage of Marlon Brando's Jor-El was great. It worked. There's that moment when Superman's in space hovering and he can hear everyone. It's a compelling scene. The bullet in the eye is absolutely fantastic. This film has so many great moments. It's a quiet movie, if you like. And they brought back Lex Luthor. They brought They brought back Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor, but Kevin Spacey was playing him. And I think Spacey gave it a bit of devil, a bit of darkness. Now, we're talking about Bryan Singer and Kevin Spacey, the artists, not the real people. They're accused of some things, which I don't want to go into. That's not what this video is about. That's something else for another video, maybe for Popcorn Planet to talk about. I like talking about movies and artists, and that's what we're talking about. And I appreciate that Brian came into Robert Meyer Burnett last night and was speaking about this. As I say, I didn't know that Robert made a documentary about that film. So it's absolutely fascinating when you underestimate these YouTubers. Robert speaks a lot about films, and sometimes I think, well, what the fuck do you know about films? But kind of you can see he's a very interesting guy, and it was great to have that video and to have Robert's appreciation of the movie. A lot of people don't like this movie. A lot of people like this movie. It's a bit like Man of Steel. Man of Steel making more money than Superman Returns, but it's not always about box office, you see. That film nearly got a sequel despite only making 100 million over its budget. That's interesting. So let's go into what kind of a sequel this would have been, because I find this fascinating. So, as I said, Brian discussed this a long time ago. After Man of Steel, he said, I promise I'll give you action. Brian was listening to the studio and the fans, unlike some directors, right? And Brian wanted to bring more action. He described the sequel of Superman Returns as a Wrath of Khan movie. So the idea was that Brainiac was going to be in the sequel. Now, I can tell you how this was going to happen. So the Skull ship arrives on Earth and Superman greets him. Now, at first, they have a good relationship, and Superman decides to show him around the Earth and explain to him how Earth works and what his role on Earth is. And Brainiac's taken aback why Superman is protecting these people and why he doesn't conquer his world. And Superman explains to him that that's not, he doesn't feel that's right. And that's when kind of Brainiac says, I will persuade you that the humans are not worth your time. They will betray you. They will break your heart. Your heart will be broken by the time our relationship ends. So ultimately, Brainiac takes the form of Superman's son, Jason, from the first film. Now, Superman mistakenly kills his own son because he thinks it's Brainiac. And I think this would have been sensational. I think this would have been amazing. I still think about what kind of movie this sequel is because, personally, I like Superman Returns. I don't mind that there wasn't a superhero battle. I don't mind that it wasn't action-packed because I think this was a classic movie in terms of what it did. And I think it's a very interesting movie. I would like it to be transformed into 4K. I would love to persuade Brian to do a director's cut. I think he doesn't realise there's lots of people out there who appreciate the movie. It's interesting, actually. Rob read out a comment from a fan to Brian and said, well, this fan said it's a brilliant film. He loves it and he prefers it to Man of Steel. And Brian making it clear, he goes, I like to be supportive to my fellow directors, but I appreciate what you're saying. So that was very polite of Brian not to get into Zack. So it'll be interesting. Now, he said another interesting thing. He wanted to look at the religious elements of Superman, stating he's not religious himself, but he wanted Superman to be like this Christ-like character. So very interesting. Something Zack did as well. But I think Zack's really religious in his personal life, I would imagine. But Brian said he's not. So it's just really interesting to see these different directors. Listen, people can criticize Superman live action, but I think it's all been fantastic from the days of George Reeves to Christopher Reeve to Superboy to Lois and Clark to Smallville to Henry Cavill's Superman, Man of Steel, BVS. I think it's all been unique. And now Superman and Lois is pretty much an amalgamation of everything we've seen, but with an original story with the boys and Smallville and Lois. And so, I look back at all of live action Superman. I don't actually hate it. I love it all. Even the Lois and Clark show, which I barely watched. I appreciate the fact that that version has fans of its own, and those fans are always welcome on my channel to talk to me about why they love that element of Superman. It was a romantic thing. So a Lois and Clark show now about romance wouldn't work. It's not what superhero fans want to see, but it was at the right time where people didn't expect much from TV. It was the era of Baywatch, basically. Hasselhoff decided to have a bunch of women in bikinis with their jugs jumping up and down. I don't know how he got away with it. I still don't believe people watch it today. Kurt, Manchester United fan, Australia. Yo, brother. Yo, Kurt. Good morning to you. We're talking about Superman Returns, celebrating 15 years since it released yesterday. It's actually a blessing that there's not many people talking in the chat because I can go off and talk about my love for this movie because I really do think it's a special movie. As I say, the Return to Krypton sequence is probably the most delightful deleted scene that should be in a movie ever. You know, the tagline for Superman Returns was from the heights of space to the depths of the ocean to the heights of space. And so, it was, I think, listen, JDTSB, hello. Let me just tell you something. Pre-Superman Returns release, I was so excited for this movie. Smallville was at its peak. I was going into Smith's reading Total Film, and the security guards used to watch me. I read the article where Brian said him, Kevin, and Brandon were shooting all day the moment when Superman finds Lex's lair and he stabs him with the kryptonite. And Brian was getting frustrated because they couldn't get what he wanted, but in the end they got it, and it was just amazing reading Brian's passion for the project. I think Brian made a really good Superman movie. As I say, warts and all, it's not a perfect movie, but as I say, nothing made by human hands is perfect. But I do feel that Superman Returns is special. I do realise I'm not going to get much interaction on today's video. People are not going to be interested in me talking about Superman Returns. But it's my channel. There's no update, so we're going to talk about this. And I'm so hot. As I say, 40 Celsius out here in Cyprus. I wish I was Superman. But at the end of the day, people can mock Superman Returns, but I think if you've got a heart, you see, there's many moments I cried in this film. This film actually affected me in an emotional standpoint. As I say, when he recites Brando's Jor-El's words to his son, Jason, in the end, I think it's beautiful. I really do. I think it's a great moment. And, when he tells his son you'll never be alone, and he recites everything that Brando said before he was sent to Earth. And I think that's a great idea by Singer. Of course, Singer was obsessed with Superman the movie. Superman the movie gets a bad rap by the cool kids, the modern film viewer, but I don't give a shit, But so Superman Returns was an emotional movie. Billy March, let's say that again. Billy March Farrell. Hello, thumbs up. Hello, Billy March. Welcome to the Movies TV Mad Daily Live. We're just thinking back to Superman Returns, seeing it was 15 years yesterday since it released. Robert Meyer Brunette did a wonderful video and interviewed Bryan Singer by phone, and I think that was great. I don't want to talk about Brian in the real life, but I'm going to talk about Brian as an artist. The artist that directed and co-wrote Superman Returns, which means a lot to me. I think as a Superman fan, I think it's a really interesting film. As Brian says, it's a film that stands on its own. It's not sequelized. So it's an interesting movie that people only talk about these days to denigrate, to be negative about. But I think that film has a lot of positives, more positives than negatives. I remember everyone calling Brandon Routh Superman a stalker. Typical internet fucking generation. He loves her. She loves him. He's watching her from afar. He's devastated that she's got a family now, and he can't be part of that. You've got to understand the heartbreak of the situation. To call him a stalker was ridiculous, but that's the problem with the modern internet generation. They don't understand emotion in movies, especially superhero movies. Oh, it's a cameo. Oh, it's an Easter egg. Oh, Tony Stark cracked a joke. This film was more than that. This film was a director's love affair with Superman the movie, and he gave it a sequel. And he was going to take it in an exciting new direction with the second movie. So I think Brian did an excellent job with Superman Returns. I really do. And as I say, it's unique. This is the man who started 21st century superhero movies with X-Men and X2. And people will say he should have done X3. And that's when his career went downhill, because he did Superman Returns. That was a little bit of a failure. But it was Superman Returns for Brian was a passion project. And I like that he risked his career and everything else just to do this movie. And it's there now. And it may not be the perfect movie. It may not be the best Superman movie ever. But I think it's got so many groundbreaking sequences. The plane crash, the bullet in the eye, great moments. Superman lifting up New Krypton at the end is a sensational scene. Brandon, the performance Brian gets out of Brandon when he's lifting up New Krypton, and John Ottman's music. That moment is a beautiful moment, and it's great. And then he falls to the floor and he's in hospital. You see Superman at his weakest. He's not dead. He's just about alive, and it's brilliant. A lot of people hate Kate Bosworth's Lois Lane. I don't. I think she did a cool job. I wouldn't have personally cast her, but she's a friend. She was a friend of Kevin Spacey's. He suggested she be in the movie, and I think she did a good job. I like her. I thought the cast was great. I thought we had an amazing Jimmy Olsen, and really, for one of the few times in live action, we actually had Jimmy Olsen being Superman's best pal. We had Clark and Jimmy in a bar drinking. Some great stuff. I thought that he was a really cool Jimmy Olsen. I actually think Jimmy Olsen is very important to the Superman story. He's like the companion in Doctor Who. He's the human. He's our way into the story. This is this young boy who comes to work at the Daily Planet, an ordinary young boy, and he becomes best friends with Superman. I think that's an amazing, beautiful thing. Again, the tired kind of modern day internet audiences won't appreciate that emotional element. But then when they talk about Doctor Who, they say that the companion is so important. The hypocrisy of that is not lost on me. So I thought we had a great Jimmy Olsen in Superman Returns for sure. So I went to see Superman Returns in the cinema. This was, as I say, a very exciting movie for me before I even saw it. I was so excited and intrigued by this movie. This was, for me, the first Superman film since Superman 4, 19 years ago. I was excited that it was going to continue from the Donnerverse. I thought I was interested in that, especially if someone could grab something so successful and continue it. So that was always interesting to me. Look, it's a failed experiment, but it's not a disastrous failed experiment. It nearly made 400 million, not the end of the world. It didn't make much of a profit, admittedly, but the film's there for people to enjoy. And it's quite sad for me that you can't even buy it on Amazon Video, which is a shame. It's not even on my Netflix anymore. My disc is actually scratched, so I don't have it available to me to watch properly anymore. So I'm going to try and reorder it because I just think it's a great film. But I do feel that Warner Brothers need to look at doing at least a 4K release of it if they can. And also, I would love Brian to do a director's cut, as I've already said. I feel that Brian needs to be convinced to do a director's cut. He said to Robert Meyer Burnett last night on his video that he's not interested in doing that. But I would certainly like to help Brian do that if he was interested. Really, Brian, all you have to do is put that Return to Krypton sequence on it. I mean, there's a few other scenes you could do, but I don't know what other footage you've got in the movie, by the way. But I do feel, Brian, if he was watching, which he's not, but I do feel that Return to Krypton sequence, and I've explained on this channel what I would do. I would put it pre-credit. Before the opening credits, I would have that sequence. It's a beautiful sequence. It makes you understand Superman's struggle in the whole movie by doing that. It's a great sequence, and I think it should be in the movie. And I always watch it before I watch the actual movie. And it really does work for me. John, I think Brandon Routh was an unknown. Brandon Routh was a soap opera actor, just like Sasha Calle is before she was cast. He was great casting. He did a really good job. I don't know if I would have cast Brandon myself, but he did his best. And he really performed greatly with that. And I think Brian's actually said he regretted casting him and he would have cast someone else, which is a shame to blame Brandon for the failure of the movie. But I do like Superman Returns. I think Brandon Routh is a great Clark Kent and a great Superman. And it doesn't really, I mean, you should be unknown. If you're going to play Superman, you pretty much need to be unknown as far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, you're seeing a famous person in that costume and flying. And that's not how it works. It has to be Superman. It has to be an unknown. And I feel that's how it works. I didn't know who Henry Cavill was before he played Superman. And I think people are so obsessed with fan castings and reputations. That's the word I was looking for. Famous reputations. And I don't really see the need to actually do that. I think Brandon Routh was great casting right away. I like the cast. I think the cast was pretty cool, and I think it's a really good film. But as I say, the modern day audience is never, the Marvel generation is never going to appreciate a film like that. No superhero villain, no CGI monster, no Thanos. It was literally about Clark being gone, coming back, and his world changing. And Brian was asking the question in the film, does the world still need Superman? And that's Lois Lane's, article that she wins a Pulitzer for in the film. And, Lois and Superman have this conversation, and Superman goes, why did you write the article? And Lois is angry. Why did you leave us? And, it's actually a very emotional scene, that moment. He didn't say goodbye. He just left. Now, in the novelization, it's what actually happens is Lex Luthor manipulates the whole situation. He gets a scientist to write an article where he believes there's still life in the remains of Krypton. Clark reads this and decides to check it out. So while he's gone, Superman can't be a witness to Lex Luthor's parole hearing. So Lex Luthor gets out. So in the novelization, I've got it somewhere. It's actually, as I say, I was so obsessed. I got the novelization before I saw the film. I got the soundtrack before I saw the film. It was such an exciting, as a Superman film, as a Superman film, it was so exciting. The build-up, I have never been so excited for a film in my life, even in modern day terms. I think obviously Man of Steel was an exciting time because it was another Superman film. But that build-up was special. That was the peak of my Superman obsession. And as I say, Smallville was at its peak. It was an exciting time for me. John, why did you retract your... John, Superman Returns had the worst Lois. Do you know what, John? I don't hate that Lois. I know, again, that's an internety thing to say. Everyone does that. She's such a bad Lois. But why is she a bad Lois? I mean... She's a really good actor. She's a really celebrated actor. She's very talented. Maybe she's not everyone's cup of tea, but I thought she did fine in the role. And, I think the more we saw her in the sequels, the more we would have got used to her. So I don't personally believe that she was a terrible Lois. I think that, come on. But anyway, yeah. And so I think Kate Bosworth did okay. As I say, she's not my favourite Lois Lane. She's nobody's favourite Lois Lane. But I wouldn't go as far as to say she's the worst or she's terrible. But it's interesting how people perceive things. Clearly, she's playing Margot Kidder's Lois Lane. So you really wouldn't cast Kate as Margot Kidder's Lois Lane. But I think in what she was asked to do, she did very well. But, yeah, she no way reminded me of Margot Kidder's Lois Lane. So I don't understand what the thinking there was. There were some mistakes made in the movie. As I say, anything made by human hands, you can find mistakes, you can nitpick. But as I say, I liked the movie. I think it did some really interesting things. I think it did some equally stunning visual things as Snyder did in Man of Steel. I truly believe that. The plane crash and the bullet in the eye. Nothing. I don't think, when you look at the bullet in the eye, it's probably one of the most imaginative, most amazing visuals I've ever seen in a Superman movie. It's fantastic. There are some really good moments in this film. And as I say, for me, the film's really cool to watch and look back at it and kind of say, it's an interesting movie. Not everyone's cup of tea. Listen, it was a director who was obsessed with Superman the movie. He did it. It wasn't successful. You have to move on eventually from your failures as an artist. And people will always remind you that your film you made, leave it up to the internet to tell you how bad you are. It's funny, they stand people who are not that talented, so it's interesting. Not forgetting Bryan Singer started these superhero movies with X-Men and X-Men 2. Probably, I think, better than any MCU movie ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Very, very interesting. So Bryan Singer started all this. But, yeah, so I like Superman Returns. I think it's a really, really good, interesting movie. And it's always going to be there for me to watch and enjoy and think about what might have been. as I say, it's a really interesting test case. You know, I think the experiment needed making. Can we continue the Reeve saga, the Dick Donnerverse? I think just because Superman Returns didn't work, it doesn't mean people are not interested. I think when you look at Bryan Singer's kind of world he created, it looked nothing like Donner's world. You know, we're talking about a space of 5 years between Superman 2 and Superman Returns. In the story, that's the time gap. You know, that's the time frame. And the Daily Planet doesn't look like the Daily Planet that Dick set up, or, you know, where they shot. It just didn't look like the world that Dick Donner created. And I think there wasn't much connectivity there. You've got to cast people who are going to perform like those characters. In fact, what he decided to do was challenging, difficult, and probably impossible to pull off, using different actors to play them and impersonate them, and it didn't really work. It didn't work to that sense. But I think there are some really good moments in the film, and I think it's a bona fide, at least solid Superman movie. And so I think, as I say, it's a very interesting Superman movie to look back on. So there's 5 of you in the chat. If you want to ask me anything before I go, there's about 10 minutes to go of this video. As I say, a very short video. I'm very lethargic today. It's 40 Celsius, but I wanted to come in and talk about Superman Returns today. I was going to do a pre-recorded and editorial, but I thought, you know what? I just don't have the energy today, so I thought I'd do this. But yeah, so I hope JDTSB, Brian was a true comics fan. Bryan Singer, as I say, JDTSB, is a pioneer. What he did with X-Men and X-Men 2 is fantastic. And he came in to do Superman Returns, and not to copy and paste the comics, but just, as I say, he was a big fan of the George Reeves series, a big fan of Dick Donner's first Superman movie, and that's what he came to do. It was a love letter to that. Now, as I say, what he decided to do was very challenging. He didn't really successfully continue that world, but I think he kind of made an interesting movie in his own rights. You know, I always said with the Jason character, he just should have made him Superboy. He should have been Lex's experiment using his and Superman's DNA, but he decided not to do that. But I still think the Jason storyline would have been interesting in the sequel. And as I say, we were going to get Brainiac. Bryan Singer actually was going to be the first director to give us Brainiac in a Superman live-action movie. So it's a shame we never got that. As I say, he was saying it was going to be a Wrath of Khan type of movie. I would have been interested to see that. So yeah, Bryan Singer was a pioneer of a director, very interesting director. Definitely an interesting character, to say the least. But in terms of, as an artist, you know, he's the kind of guy you wanted to make superhero films because he looks at them in a very defined way. He took his own definition of them. He wasn't just trying to give you some sweets and custard. Gobble it up. Doesn't that taste nice? Bryan always tried to do something interesting with his movies. In terms of X-Men and X2, I think the heart of those movies is actually Magneto. And I think, you know, and Professor X's relationship. There's a core thing there. I say good luck, Kevin Feige, trying to equal what Singer did with X-Men and X-Men 2. John, X-Men and X-Men 2 are 2 of my favorite Marvel movies. I think they're the best. I think Feige has never produced anything on the level of X-Men and X-Men 2. As I say, good luck, MCU, doing what that man did. Whatever you think about him in the real world, he pulled it off. And as I say, that's what Superman Returns is. It's a unique look. It's a love letter to an older movie, and that's fine. JDTSB, I saw an announcement that Fast and Furious made 70 million in its opening weekend. Do you think this signals the return of theatre going? Oh, I mean, you don't need to ask me that. Yeah, obviously, definitely. These are pre-COVID numbers, aren't they? This is very exciting, and very exciting for the Suicide Squad as well, and the Batman, who doesn't come out long after the Suicide Squad next March. So, yeah, this is good news. What I'm saying, JDTSB, no one can make excuses about COVID anymore. Birds of Prey tried that. Nobody can try those excuses now. You know, people want to see the Fast movies. People want to see the Suicide Squad. So if it doesn't do what it should do in terms of pre-COVID numbers, it means the movie's a failure and that James did something wrong. So we're going to have to see. about that. But I do expect James Gunn's The Suicide Squad to be very, very successful. But yes, it is a return to theatre going for sure. People are going. People have missed the theatres. People want that experience, right? Streaming can't replicate that. It's, streaming's cool and everything. John, I did enjoy X-Men 3. Well, funny you should say that, John, because so did I. I thought Brett Ratner did an interesting job with it. And I'll tell you why. It's an interesting movie because it goes to that character whose name I forgot, but the woman that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is in love with. Yeah, Jean Grey. It's her movie, and what's happening to her. By the way, what happens to Jean Grey in that movie is much better than what they did with that other movie. I think it was X-Men Apocalypse or whatever it was, right? I think it was great. And I love the bit when Hugh Jackman's going to Jean, stay with me. It's actually a really good film. And it's about making a choice. Do you want to change who you are because society deems you wrong? Or do you want to remain? Are you proud of who you are? So I actually think it's a very, very good film. I think Brian would have made a better movie, no question about it. But Brian had a passion project. And I think that's why I like Brian as an artist, by the way. I'll say that because obviously I can't approve of the things that he's accused of. I would never approve of those things. And if proven right, absolutely despicable. But as an artist, I think he made something that he wanted to make. He was given hundreds of millions. He was given 200 million, 300 million to make his passion project. And he kind of did it. I mean, it kind of kiboshed his career. He made a few other X-Men movies. He's never really done anything as amazing or as unique or as loved as X-Men or X-Men 2. So he'll always be remembered for it. The story of Bryan Singer's career was that he decided to make a passion project, and it kind of failed in a lot of ways, but it's pretty awesome to crash and burn with your own passion project. He made it. That's the film he decided to make. And I think it's a very, very interesting movie. And I think when people look back at it, when we see the end of the superhero craze, I think it's a romantic movie. And as I say, people don't want to see romantic movies anymore, especially now. We look at where we are with society right now. People aren't just going to want to see, kind of, without me being derogatory, a white dude and a white woman falling in love. There's so many genders, there's so many identifications. People want to be represented themselves. And so it's not going to work so much having the old-fashioned, straight white dude, straight white woman falling in love. Now, this is not me talking. This is how this new generation see the world now. So they're not going to pay to see that type of thing. So it's interesting what the future holds for movies now, not just superhero movies, with the world changing so much. It's very interesting. When you open the genie's bottle, then you've got to be prepared. And the genie's bottle in the real world, with what's going on now, has really opened. And as a business, as an entertainment industry, you now have to cater for the fact that we have so many genders, so many sexualities, and you have to cater for those because they're now your audience, because they're people in the world. And they expect to be represented. They should be represented. But is it possible to represent everyone? This could be the undoing of the film industry, because you can represent people, but you mustn't forget to also entertain people. And so if you're only representing people and being inclusive and you're not doing the old-fashioned things, you have a problem. Ryan, everything's canon. Cinematics. Hey, Big Mouth, after the merger, do you think we're going to have a live-action DC shared cinematic universe in 5 years? Yes, Ryan. Basically, as your name says, everything will be canon from the Flash movie and onwards. So basically, you won't have to wait 5 years for a shared DC universe. After Flash, it will be a shared cinematic universe. So let me explain what you already know already. So after the Flash movie, every single live-action version of every DC character ever made, the first Supergirl film, the Reeve movies, Brandon Routh, of course, is Christopher Reeve's Superman, the Green Lantern movie, Smallville, the Arrowverse, and the DCEU will all combine as a multiverse strategy. So it will all be canon. There'll be these different Earths will now all be canon, and that will be your shared cinematic universe. So you won't have to wait 5 years. You just have to wait till November 2022 for that new shared cinematic universe to happen. Now, Snyder's DCEU will be a shared universe. Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League is part of that shared universe. And then obviously everything went wrong. So Barry will reboot the universe. Then you'll get this multiverse strategy. So for sure, we are looking at a shared DC universe with more connections, more Easter eggs, more cameos, and characters crossing over. So for me, Ryan, and I'm not sure how you feel about this, I think that's very exciting. JDTSB, X-Men are my favorite Marvel characters. I'm torn about Feige rebooting them. I think making it Disney-fied will not really reflect how raw the characters are. Yeah, listen, there's no way he can pull this off like Brian did. Now, I hope that he does, but I just can't see it. If he does it on the remit, he does everything else. I mean, I look at The Incredible Hulk. I see what a great job the director did with the movie. I see what a great job Ed Norton did and, pushing his ideas forward. And to remove Ed Norton because he was passionate and had his own ideas is typical Feige, and that's a problem. Ronnie Dodge Geek, hi Mick. Hi Ronnie, you came in at the end of the video. Oh my God, a shorter video today. We don't have any updates, my friend. So I was talking about Superman Returns and my love for it. And on Rob's Ovations last night, Robert Meyer Brunette, he spoke to Bryan Singer about Superman Returns. So I've just been discussing it. I hope you're cool, Ronnie Dodge. Of course, I will be back tonight from 6:30 p.m. UK time. Please check your local times. Don't expect me to translate the time. I can't even do my 2 times table. Never mind that. But it's been a great live, by the way. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about my passion and love for Superman Returns. Superman, as you already know, means a great deal to me. So it was great 5 or 6 of you at least came in. Thanks for that. Ronnie Dodge, see you tonight. Typical Milo. I'm really sorry, Ronnie, but if you've got the time, re-watch the video, put some comments down, and I'll react to your comments when we come in live tonight. I'm really sorry, mate. But I will be back. I'm not gone forever, so don't miss me too much. And, of course, we'll be able to interact together tonight from 6:30. So please remember, I'm at Movies TV Mad on Twitter, at Movies TV Mad 555 on Instagram and TikTok as well. So I will see you tonight. Ronnie Dodge Geek, don't worry about it, mate. Of course I do, Ronnie. I wanted to interact with you this morning. And you coming in at the end there actually makes me feel guilty, but there's nothing I can do about it, unfortunately, because I've got to put my dad on the loo. I know. It is a glamorous life that I lead, and then make lunch and put the sheets on the line and take some off. It's a glamorous life. Anyway, see you tonight, everyone. Whatever you're doing today, have a good one. And if you do something wrong, make sure nobody finds out. Until tonight, see you later. Goodbye.